Hey guys, it's Targon here doing another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today I want to talk about fusion preparation. Okay, so we've got this new fusion that just launched for Helikath. Looks like he's going to be an amazing fusion champion. Now I know some people got sucked into some of the resource traps and spent all their shards already, or spent all their energy just before this amazing fusion got dropped. And so what I want to do is just talk about things to keep in mind. If you want to have a chance to get the fusions, you kind of need to prepare for it because it is, a pretty big task getting a fusion champion. Not undoable. You can do it. I've actually gotten fusions relatively early on in the game. Especially early on, I would say that the fragment events are a good bit easier just because it's easier to win the tournaments and get the fragments that are required for the champions. But this current one is a classic fusion, and so that's the one I'm going to talk about today, especially since they haven't done as many recently, so not everybody's going to be familiar with it. So let's go ahead and just look at how the classic fusion works. So in a classic fusion as opposed to a fragment fusion, fragment fusion, you're just collecting fragments. You get all 100 fragments, and then you just click summon. But for a classic fusion, you've got to go and collect all these rare champions. You have to level them up to 40, ascend them fully, fuse them into the epic champions, level them up to 50, ascend them fully, and then fuse them into the legendary champion. And you only have this amount of time to do all of it on top of all the events that are required. So in general, the fusions are actually more difficult, like the classic fusions, as opposed to the fragment summons, just because it adds an extra layer in where you have to get all these champions to level 50. That takes a substantial amount of time and energy if you're farming campaign, or if you're going to use brews, it's a few brews, especially since for this one in particular, all the fusion champs are spirit affinity. So you're going to run out of spirit affinity potions or brews relatively quickly. So you want to be prepared for these because it's going to take some resources. All right, so if the fusions are all the way you get each of these champions is you have to complete various tasks in the game. They're relatively standard. You're probably familiar with the tournaments and the events that they do. So here's just a list of all these events. And it's nice they actually have them in chronological order. But so for this fusion in particular, it changes up somewhat, but this is basically what you're going to see. There's going to be 3 Dungeon Diver events. These are perhaps the hardest ones, just because the amount of points required is substantial. Hardest outside of the summoning ones, at least. So you're going to need to get the Dungeon Divers. You're going to need to complete the tournaments for each dungeon. Now, the Dungeon Divers and the dungeon tournaments coincide, so you can double up on the points there, which is really nice. So the Dungeon Divers, each dungeon's going to have its own tournament: Ice Golem, Dragon, Fire Knight, Spider, all those. And then we have 2 artifact enhancement events. There's been times in the past where they've done 3 artifact enhancement events. So you do want to stash some silver for that, though for the most part you should be able to get what you need in silver by selling artifacts from the other events. There are, looks like there's just 2, no, isn't there 3? I thought I saw 3 before. I guess it's just 2 classic arena events, or tournaments rather, that you need to complete. And then the only other things are the champion training tournament and the champion training event. Those are really, those can be a bit of a grind. But really it's not all that complicated. You just got to level up as many champions as you can. And you do want to take advantage of the opportunity, if you have some of those epic champions, use the champion training events to level them up. At least that way you're getting the points for it, as opposed to just waiting until the end to level them up. And then, so the only other thing then we got to worry about is the summoning events. So you have Champion Chase Tournament, where you're getting points for the champions that you're collecting, versus a Summon Rush where you get points for the shards used. So the cool thing with the fusion that can help is that during the champion chase, if you are able to collect enough champions to fuse one of these epics, that's going to give you points. So I think, given the breakdown, that might work where you can do that for this particular fusion, but keep an eye on that. So Champion Chase, look for opportunities to fuse these in order to get points. You can also prepare, if you're worried about shards, prepare by collecting some of these champions. So you can collect these ones here, maybe keep one of these in your vault. And then you fuse these. I think fusing the Void Rares is 50 points in a Champion Chase, and then fusing the Void Epic is 350. So if you were able to fuse, say, these two, and then you had these guys ready to go, you just level them up, ascend them, fuse them, that's going to be over 400 points right there. Can be really helpful. Again, you got Relic Keeper here. So that's why sometimes I try to hang on to copies of these champions just in case I'm in a situation where I'm like, you know what, I need to get a few extra points here. So you can do that to save on shards. The other thing you can do is keep some of your fragment champions. This is another reason why I oftentimes will go for the fragment champions, even if I'm not super thrilled, is because I can use it for a Champion Chase tournament for another fusion to help me out there, or I can use it for CBC. But you know, so if you're wanting to go for the fusion, don't use it for CBC. Use it for the fusion if you're worried about how many shards you have. Okay, so the first, you know, the big thing that you want to do for preparing, probably the most important thing, is just make sure that you have enough shards. You know, the Summon Rush events, I think you get the rare champion maybe around 2,000 points or so. So right here, I've got enough Sacred Shards where I can get 2,500 because each of these is worth 500 points. I think the Voids are 120, and then the Epic or the Ancients are worth 20 points each. So I should have enough points here in shards. I've prepared well enough. You know, getting the Summon Rush is not going to be a problem. If worse comes to worse, you can use a bunch of mystery shards. So try and buy up every mystery shard that you see on the market. Really, all the whole time. Like anytime I see these on the market, I'm buying them. Just because you go through champions a lot when you're playing this game, and you're going to need a lot of food to do the champion training events. You're going to need the points for the Summon Rush. So, you know, if the Summon Rush is going on and you're really short on shards, I've used 1,000 of these before to get a champion from Summon Rush. It is a real pain. I'm basically summoning them, using them to level up another champion, summoning more. It's not the best use of shards, but in this case, because you're trying to get that legendary champion, it's well worth it. All right, and so then with the Champion Chase, if you're not able, and you probably won't be able to get enough points for the Champion Chase tournament just off fusing and fragment summons, so you probably will still need to use some shards. Typically, I think the best use of shards in a Champion Chase is actually going with the Ancient Shards. They're not super helpful in Summon Rush, but the thing with Champion Chase is if you happen to get lucky and pull a legendary champion, you get a ton of points for that. So if you get lucky, the shards are worth a lot more, and chances are you're going to get an epic champion as well if you know, do a few 10x of these. you'll probably get a handful of epic champions, and I think typically, again, I think maybe it's 2,000 points, maybe not even quite that high to get the champion that you need. Um, so epics are worth 250. So if you can even pull 4 epics out of these, then between rares and some mystery shards, you've got enough there for the champion chase tournament. And then I usually will save the sacred shards for the summon rush, just because it's still not great odds that I pull a legendary champion from these. So then it's only helping me with an epic, which I can get from an ancient shard anyway fairly easily. So I feel like best use for sacred shards in a fusion event is you save them for the summon rush. Void shards as well, though you can kind of use them either way. Typically there will be, and I think this current fusion is going to have a 2x event on ancient shards. Sometimes they'll do a 2x on the void shards, and usually that'll coincide with the champion chase tournament, which makes it a lot easier because now you've got a 16% chance of getting an epic, so the points really go up. So that's just some strategies for using your shards. The other thing you're going to need some energy. So I've saved, you don't need to save up this much energy. This is a little bit extra. You know, I just kind of haven't been able to use it lately. So I have a lot of energy. Look for opportunities to stash energy. So, you know, you go to the shop here, right, and you get, I don't know if there's going to be energy in here. There's not energy this time, but occasionally these will have energy. And then it goes to your inbox. And so I try to save all my energy potions specifically for these types of events, because if I'm running low on energy, I'm going to need some refills, and I might need to use my gems on getting more shards. So I want to make sure that I have some energy refills in the bank. So maybe consider saving those instead of using them right away. Another thing you can do is if you look like at the quests, so like for monthlies, you know, I still got a ways to go before completing the daily quest, but so I'm going to hold on to this here, and then that way, you know, towards the end of the fusion, I'll be out of energy here. I'll probably need some more, so I'm just going to go in, grab this, and I'm good to go. So those are some tricks for maintaining good energy. They give away enough energy that, you know, with a little preparation and stashing ahead of time, you don't even necessarily need to stash a whole bunch ahead of time. I've done fusions where I start the day for the fusion with, you know, 130 energy. I just have to use more of the potions that I have in stock. So you don't necessarily have to. It just makes it a lot easier. And you don't have to worry about running out of resources so much. You do want to look at the breakdown for the events, because sometimes they'll do 3 artifact enhancement events, which makes it a little bit more difficult. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of silver saved up, though typically you're able to get enough silver as you play the game. But like if they hit you with an artifact event early on, you don't want to be running out of silver right away. A great source for silver is the forge. You can go to the forge. You know, you craft one of these. I might actually, I'm going to keep this one, but you see I could sell it. I mean, this is a good one, but, you know, 75,000 silver, you do that times, you know, a few hundred, and you've got a lot of silver. The other thing which I'm going to do here on my account very soon, I need to do a gear cleanse, because I'm full here. Actually, a lot of this is like 5-star rares that I'm not going to use really. So I'm just going to go through later on and cleanse that out. And I have a ton of gear, you know, in my inbox here. It's kind of ridiculous. So I really need to make way so I can clear that out and get the new gear. Plus with the dungeon events coming up, I'm going to be getting some new gear anyway. So I'm going to do a big cleanse coming up, just to make room for all that. It's good to keep some gems, because you never know when you're going to need that extra energy. You may need some extra shards to finish off one of the summon events. But the other thing to be thoughtful of is there's going to be arena tournaments, and sometimes they do 3 of those. And depending on where you are in arena and how difficult it is, you might need to use some refreshes. Typically, you don't need to buy more tokens if you're winning most of your battles, but if you're like losing a bunch of battles, you may need to buy more tokens. So you want to save a few gems for that. Typically, I'll use it more for refills. If you're struggling at your current arena level, it's good to consider, like maybe the week before the fusion, try and move down. Just to make it a little bit easier so that way you don't have to worry about it, because there's been times where I've cut it close just because the arena was so packed. Back in the day it was a lot worse. I think it's better now. It's much more manageable now, so hopefully this won't be too much of an issue for most people, but it is something to consider. If you're struggling in the arena, a few days before the fusion begins, maybe just start intentionally losing battles so that way your rank drops down, and then you can bring it back up during the arena tournaments. All right. Now, so that's just general, things to consider for fusions in general. That includes fragment. The one thing that's different with classic fusions is you have to make sure that you have the potions you need. All right, so I've got a nice little stock of potions here. For the epic champions, it takes 6 of their affinity potion, and then 3 of these other ones here, the arcane potions, the superior arcane potions, to get them fully ascended to level 5 of ascension. So you want to make sure that you have enough of those. And this current fusion, everything is spirit. But some of them, they'll mix it up. So I've seen fusions where you had like 1 of each, and then I've seen fusions where it was like 3 spirits and a force or whatever. It varies. So you do want to just be mindful of that. If you can, you want to try and get the potions before, just because it takes so much time and it's such a grind. It's easy to get sucked into, I got to get the champions, I got to get the champions, I got to level them. All right, I got all the champions, I've leveled them. Oh no, I don't have any potions, and today's the last day, and I'm all out of gems, so I can't open the potion keep that I need, so I did all this work for nothing. You don't want to get caught in that type of a scenario. So make sure that you've got a few potions ready to go. Okay? So, really that's it. You can look at, usually they'll release like kind of a graph that shows where the events coincide, and that can kind of help you plan for it. The good thing is if they're doing a summoning event early on and you happen to pull one of the champions that's required, if during the first event, if I pull one of these guys, that's going to make it so much easier. But even if I pull 1 or 2 of these, then that's going to allow me to, not have to stress quite so much, because I think it's just 16 of these that are available from the events. I could be wrong, actually. Well, it depends on the fusion, and especially like with the fragment events, there can be different ways of getting the fragments as well. So you can kind of mix and match with what you need. For classic fusions, sometimes they'll have the epics available. Now for this one, there's only an epic available from the Summon Rush. Traditionally, they've done an epic from Summon Rush and from Champion Training Tournament, or Champion Training Event, rather. So a lot of times, typically when I would do these, I would grab the champion from the Champion Training Event, and if I really liked that champion, I'd keep it and try and get all the other ones and just fuse it anyways. But it's important to note, if you decide to get the epic champion, if you pull one, or if you get them from the events early, but you haven't fused. So if you're thinking like, oh, I've got 4 already because I picked one up from the Summon Rush, I'm going to go ahead and fuse for the legendary, and then I'll fuse this other one when I get the last rare. Once you fuse the legendary, this goes away traditionally. So you might not be able to do that. So make sure that you fuse all of these before you fuse the legendary. All right. Um, if you're new to the game, consider going for one of the epics. It's not going to be that hard to pick up 4 of these. And there's been fusions in the past where like the 4 champions here are all different, so you can kind of pick and choose which one do you want to go for, which one's going to help your account the most. So I'm on my alt account now, and I have actually some champions that I'm still using that I got from fusions. I don't even think I got the legendary. I think I got the epics because it was early on in the account and I just didn't quite have the resources. So like Skathix, um, he's not a champion that I use all the time, but he's helpful in situations still. But early on, he really helped me a lot. Same with Siegehawk. Siegehawk is a great champion, epic champion that I got from this. And so the current epic champion looks pretty solid. Nothing, amazing like, I'm going to use it endgame outside of maybe faction wars. But it's definitely going to be a good champion. So if you're early game, picking up 1 or 2 of the epics could really help carry you along. And it's not necessarily going to be that difficult. So like right now, we have a Dungeon Diver event where you can get one of these. And there's also a dragon tournament event. So if you're kind of further along in the dragon than some of the other dungeons, look at just, all right, this is my window. I'm going to pick up 2 of these champions, and then maybe you pick up the other 2 from champion training, and then you're able to fuse them, and you get yourself an epic that helps your account. So don't just write these off as, oh, this is for, people who spend money on the game or people who are really far along in the game. You can do it early on, and you can get some champions that'll be helpful for your account. So I do encourage everybody to look at least getting the epic. Uh, this particular fusion is a very, very good legendary. Sometimes the legendaries aren't that great, and I'll skip the legendary, but maybe I'll pick up an epic that could help me in one of the weaker factions. All right, so I hope you found this video to be helpful. Hope this helps you to prepare for fusions moving forward. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and let me know if you have any other questions. And feel free to comment and so forth. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.